Hey, welcome to the channel. We hope that you enjoy today's stories and check out the chapters on the video to see all the stories for today. But before we get into this video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to get notified when we release a new video. So let's get into the video.
What is the worst city that you have ever been to, worldwide?
Experience 1. I've never been more terrified than when traveling to Johannesburg, South Africa. Our business partner drove us into town, and she started removing her earrings, wedding band, etc. I asked her why, and she said that the bandits would cut jewelry off of you if they stopped your car, so it's better to put it in the glove box. Our client was a major bank. To enter, you had to stand in a tiny plexiglass airlock where the guards, with machine guns, could inspect you before letting you inside. Once in, it was just like any other business anywhere: cubicle farms and conference rooms. Experience 2. This question is always fun because there's always a comment like, I was stationed in the Ghoul village, people were dying, and we couldn't help them because they were all infected with a flesh-eating virus from the corpse-filled river because the local government filled the Sumerian-era graveyard with burning garbage. And then the next comment is, I went to Albany once and it was overcast. Experience 3. Kaolack, Senegal. From Wiki, Kaolack is considered one of the dirtiest cities in Africa. Garbage is often left lying around on the streets, and a regulated garbage disposal system is still under construction. Sewers are mostly clogged or barely exist, and the brackish water in them is a strong source of infection for malaria and cholera contamination. However, the drinking water supply has improved significantly. Unemployment is extremely high. The city is surrounded by a blue ring of hazy waste stench from the landfills that surround it. Especially during the hot and humid months of the rainy season, the situation is difficult to bear for humans and animals. Epidemics such as malaria, yellow fever, and cholera break out almost every year. Only a few years ago, a wave of leprosy emanated from here and many people fell victim to it. Only in the western parts of the city is the situation a little better. However, this cannot hide the fact that in other districts, such as Leona, Senegalese, Luna, the worst environmental conditions prevail. Experience 4. Controversially, Rio de Janeiro. I was there for 4 days, got robbed in my hotel, robbed on the street, got eaten by bed bugs, a few friends got robbed on the beach by the police, another robbed in the street at knife point, and a guy in the hotel got kidnapped in a car at gunpoint and then kicked out of the car as it was still driving. We got caught in a riot between police and football fans and got pinned against a wall while the police shot rubber bullets at us, and I nearly got beaten up by local girls who took offense at their men trying to dance with me. As somewhere that is apparently famous for its nightlife, we couldn't find a decent bar/club anywhere on 3 out of the 4 nights. For balance, I really enjoyed the Lapa street party and football game, but it genuinely felt like the shadiest place I've ever been to, and I've been to San Pedro Sula, previously known as the murder capital of the world. In case anyone thinks I'm just a rubbish traveler, the stuff in the hotel was locked in a locker, so it was the staff that robbed me. On the street I made sure my money was stashed in my bra, so they only got a few quid. We didn't go anywhere dodgy, stuck to the tourist stuff and traveled safely. Experience 5. Sihanoukville, Cambodia. I've been to third world cities before, and this place wasn't the dirtiest or most dangerous. What it was horribly creepy. The place is filled with compounds containing Chinese-owned casinos. What I saw was like a building site, with new compounds being built everywhere. The shiny newness of these places contrasted with the general grubbiness outside of them. The place is really 2 cities in one, the hidden parts owned by the casinos, and the rest. I knew nothing about the city. I was only there because it was the port for ferries going to the islands off the coast of Cambodia. The one I went to was lovely. However, these places gave me the creeps, even though I knew nothing about them. I just put that down to hating casinos. Only later did I learn that these places were centers of slavery and extortion rackets, run mostly by mainland Chinese gangsters. They entice people from elsewhere, many from China itself, Thailand or Vietnam, with promises of good jobs, but once they're there enslaved and forced to work in various kinds of online rackets. If they complain or try to escape, they risk all sorts of nasty punishments. The local authorities are basically in the pay of the scammers. Basically, China itself cracked down on criminal gangs engaged in such scams, so many of them moved here. The locals don't like it but are powerless to prevent it. These compounds essentially rule themselves, and their owners have enough cash to be immune from consequences.
Do you like listening to these stories? Do you want to hear more of them? Then click that like button, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And check the description for links to more videos and interesting stories.
Experience 6. Real in North Wales. I've been all over the world but never seen such depravity. I was like 8 or 9 and waiting with my mum for my dad to pick us up, and we saw a group of chavs following a guy with Down syndrome and telling him they were going to follow him home and burn his house down while he slept. Probably the worst thing I've ever seen. Even as a child I knew it was incredibly screwed up. Experience 7. Dubai. When I got back, a friend who had lived there for a few years asked me what I thought, and I said, well, I'll be honest, it lacked soul to me. It was depressing and materialistic and soulless to me. It genuinely made me a worse person somehow. But I'm a tourist, you lived there, surely you experienced the real Dubai, and he said no, you summed it up. Experience 8. Manila, capital of the Philippines. A third of the population lives below the poverty level, and that's the Manila poverty level, which is pretty freaking poor. It's enough to give you nightmares if you leave the rich parts. You can insulate yourself from the rest of the city by staying in the fancy parts, like the Makati, but you can't escape the air pollution or the trash. There was a storm last time I was there. Cubic miles of trash had washed out of the city, into the river, and into Manila Bay. Along the fancy hotel's path at the edge of the bay, there were waves washing up against the wall, but the trash was floating a foot thick on the surface, and so the waves were trash waves. Well, maybe there are historic Asian things? Nope, sorry, the city was bombed to rubble and the end of World War II. All that's left are the foundations of the Intramuros, which are interesting, but not worth the walk through the slums. Experience 9. Decatur, Illinois. It's a dirty, nasty, depressing Rust Belt hellhole. The best the town council can do to describe its unique smell is the burnt toasty smell. CNN sent a reporter to cover some event and he described it as the rancid vomit of a drunk man. It's safe to eat 2 fish a year. Unless you are pregnant. And avoid tap water if you are pregnant. In fact, just avoid Decatur. Experience 10. Kandahar. A never-ending mass of squalor and depravity. Little boys are grabbed off the street by grown men. Sewage everywhere. All are destitute. It's hell on earth. Add in religious police that encourages neighbors to rat on each other and thus destroy any sense of community. Afghanistan. They refuse any modern aid and see the West as culturally deprived while growing opium and raping boys. Experience 11. Someone stole the catalytic converter off of my moving truck in Amarillo during the ice storm of 2021. It took the rental company 3 days to bring a new truck and transfer my belongings. It was dark when they finished, so I opted to leave the next morning when the roads would be safer instead of starting off at 9 p.m. The bastards returned for a second catalytic converter before I could leave. All told, I was stranded 9 days in that damn hotel. So, for me the answer is Amarillo, Texas. Experience 12. New Delhi. That city is a full-on frontal assault on the senses. Even as a cultural relativist, bleeding heart liberal, I couldn't find a way to appreciate or understand the unbelievable degree of filth, pollution, poverty, inequality, and unsanitary conditions there. There were 2 instances where I walked away from street vendors with the wrong change, and they chased me down to give me more money. That was lovely. Indians amusing themselves trying to test my level of heat tolerance when I asked for the spicy stuff was always funny. They are a lovely people. But I'd never go back to that city. Experience 13. That city is a full-on frontal assault on the senses. Even as a cultural relativist, bleeding-heart liberal, I couldn't find a way to appreciate or understand the unbelievable degree of filth, pollution, poverty, inequality, and unsanitary conditions there. There were 2 instances where I walked away from street vendors with the wrong change, and they chased me down to give me more money. That was lovely. Indians amusing themselves trying to test my level of heat tolerance when I asked for the spicy stuff was always funny. They are a lovely people. But I'd never go back to that city. Experience 14. New Delhi. The city has history, food, culture, but all of that is overshadowed by the literal haze of pollution that sits above it. Flying into the airport, you literally cross from sun-soaked blue skies through a dense smog. You can't breathe and the sky is constantly dim. It's really a shame. My recommendation is if you travel to India, just get out of New Delhi ASAP. The rest of the places I visited were amazing. Experience 15. Rubtovsk, Russia. Close to an old Soviet nuclear weapons testing site. Seems lots of terrible cancers are common there, but, unsurprisingly, the Russian government doesn't publish great statistics on the topic. Driving through the city, you see decrepit homes falling apart and people wandering around aimlessly, drunk or on drugs due to high unemployment. When the war started in Ukraine, lots of the first people who enlisted first came from that area, I guess because life in Rubtovsk is so miserable, the front line and the salary associated there would seem appealing. Some guys from Rubtovsk gained international fame for looting Ukrainian homes and trying to mail themselves toilets and washing machines. Experience 16. Cologne, Panama. Well, I took the Panama Canal train with my ex, 6'8", 225 pounds guy. The train is nice BTW. Anyway, when we got to Cologne, we kind of just wandered around. Our style of vacationing was to pick a place in a region, do very little research and wander around. We were planning to get something to eat at a cool-looking place and find a post office to send some postcards to friends. Anyway, after much wandering in very bad directions, we found the post office and kept walking as the neighborhoods kept getting worse and worse. An old lady ran up to us and said in Spanish that those guys over there are going to rob you, please leave. They had machetes. We were like WTF, okay, turned around, a random cop escorted us back to the post office without being asked, and when we felt like we could probably leave, we walked by a supermarket that was being robbed. Anyway, the reason I mentioned my ex's size was he is a big guy and I never saw his face go white before. I always felt safe with him. We even had our own machete, but it was for opening coconuts and other random stuff. Experience 17. Coleraine, Ireland. Absolute hole. I had the misfortune of going to university there. It's a university that was built solely out of spite. Decades ago, there was a large movement to expand the already existing university in Derry. Unfortunately, Derry had too many Catholics, so rather than give them something to help the town to grow and prosper, they built a whole new campus in Coleraine. Coleraine, for those who don't know it, is a terrible place to put a university. It's bigoted, miserable, and is pretty much the last place any sane person would want to go, apart from maybe Garvok.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.